A big part of what this work stream did was help to develop a standardized questionnaire that we can share with our suppliers to get a little bit more information and better understand how well our suppliers are managing their risk, and providing some guidance in terms of where, as a customer, we can potentially help our suppliers improve, and also provide some feedback. So at the start, I guess there's a question, why are these questionnaires needed in the first place? And I think James's slide there with all of the disasters, and thinking about what other potential disasters could be coming down the road, certainly it's important that we get some information from our suppliers. And many customers are already doing this, right? We want to understand what our suppliers are doing to manage their risks. And many, not all, but many customers currently have their own questionnaires, surveys. Sometimes they use third parties that get disseminated out currently to their suppliers. And in the end, these questionnaires are all looking for the same, trying to get the same type of information back from the suppliers, trying to better understand how well they're managing their risks, how robust their programs are, et cetera. So, why come up with, as a BioPhorum team here, a standardized form? Well, it's really a win-win for both the supplier and the customer. So one, the biggest complaint from customers sending out these suppliers is that they're not getting the feedback quick enough, or maybe they're not getting it all. And the biggest complaint from the suppliers is, well, we're getting so many of these from so many customers, and they take a long time to fill out. So really, the standardization allows for suppliers to have these on the ready, to answer these questions in one format, so that, again, we can get those questionnaires back to the customers in a much faster fashion. So this questionnaire, so again, what are topics that are typically covered, and what topics do we have in our standardized questionnaire here? So some general questions about the business continuity management program of the supplier. So do they have one? How strong is it? What is it covering? What capabilities exist? The business impact analysis, whether or not that is being done. More specific information around the business continuity plans themselves, whether that's end-to-end supply chain risk assessments or disaster recovery plans. Maybe the supplier doesn't have anything in place, which certainly would be a red flag. And then other questions around, how the tier 1 supplier is managing their suppliers, so the customer's tier 2 and beyond. Is any work being done there? Demand and inventory management. So again, do they have processes in place to manage those? Again, ultimately mitigating our risk as a customer. And then we also look at, and Melinda did a good job calling this out, right? So what's being done in terms of continuous improvement? Is it a stagnant program? Is it a business continuity plan that was written 10 years ago and is now collecting dust somewhere? Or again, is this something that's continually reviewed, continually improved, et cetera? So how is this used, right? So for those of you that aren't currently using questionnaires or haven't received one yet from a customer, because again, there's certainly a lot of growing momentum with these questionnaires. So customer sends it out to the supplier fills it out. And again, ideally with this standardized form, the supplier has it on the ready so they can get it back to the customer much quicker. It's then returned to the customer. The customer reviews the responses, and then here's where the collaboration can take place, and we can leverage some of the previous publications that Melinda referenced as well to share with the supplier if they are in need of some improvement in certain areas, where it's not just a red X on their form, but rather a collaborative opportunity to share feedback, best practices, provide some guidance, because just because a supplier is deficient in one area doesn't mean that they're not very strong in other areas, and therefore we should immediately go looking for a second source, right? So again, when we do find that there are areas for improvement, we don't want it to just be a 0 on the scorecard, but again, rather feedback being provided back to the supplier from the customer. And then ultimately the customer may use this as a prioritization mechanism, right? To, in conjunction with other supplier metrics, whether that's lead time, collaboration, et cetera. But again, this certainly is part of a scoring mechanism as well internally for the customer to use, again, to help prioritize and understand the risk level that exists with the supplier. And again, so who typically is using this questionnaire? Who completes it? So again, it really depends on the structure of your particular company, right? So if you have full-time resources involved who are either risk managers or business continuity managers or in supplier risk management or supply chain risk management, they may be the ones filling it out. It may be somebody in procurement that fills this out and has the information. Sometimes it's stakeholders in operations or somebody in quality. It really depends where these topics fit within your particular organization. But I think for sure it's a collaborative effort. And the idea with a standardized questionnaire is it can be filled out once, obviously continually updating as programs evolve and answers change. But that again, it's filled out so that again, it can be returned to the customer quickly so that again, action and collaboration can take place rather than us spending all of our time, filling out various questionnaires and chasing down responses. Okay, and now Sonia, back to you.
Thank you. So, how can this be used by suppliers and manufacturers? Are you a supplier? Are you a manufacturer? Both groups actually have a lot of responsibility in this. And this assessment will kind of help you understand how to create a baseline and work with in collaboration. Andrew touched on that quite a bit. Collaboration is key in a lot of these things. What you're waiting for is information to be able to make decisions, and these decisions have a big impact on what you do. We're supplying drugs to patients, and that is a major responsibility, not just for the manufacturer but also the supplier, to make sure that if you're going to be in this industry, that you have that understanding, and making sure that you're putting your safety factors in place as well. So we can make each other better. It's definitely something that we can use this as a guideline for, but it also allows us to share the responsibilities that we have for this industry. So showing kind of the importance of all of this, understanding and how to establish your BCM. Those are things that as a supplier, like I said, because of our responsibility, we have to make sure that we do have something that is robust. It's not so easy to be able to go find a second source sometimes. There are some elements that may be very, very unique to a drug, that make it very difficult to move and find elsewhere. So as a supplier, we really have to make sure that if we're going to be in this industry, we have those backup plans, to make sure that our customers are going to be uh, getting their supplies, and all of their needs are being met. But as a manufacturer, we also have a responsibility to make sure that our suppliers are doing their job. That doesn't mean that it has to be contentious or pushing for something that's unreasonable. It means that we can really work to push each other to be better, and to continuously improve. We've seen the gaps that can happen when you can't get a supply out there, and people right now are the key thing when you look at a lot of these things. This is for potentially something that's life-saving. It affects the quality of life. The importance of that can't be lost in all of this. So we should always have that in mind when we think about creating these types of backup plans, because it really does impact a lot of people maybe on this call, people that you're related to. It could be really anybody, and that's the importance we should always keep in mind as we develop these relationships.